Hello and welcome to Money, 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 your weekly personal finance date with me, Surabhi Upadhyay. It's budget season and you guessed it right. We are talking tax. So is budget 2017 going to be an easy budget for the common man, for you and for me? Is it going to give us any sort of comfort when it comes to personal taxation? And what about the rest of it all? Our savings, our investments, how will taxation changes impact that entire universe? That's the focus of this week's conversation. And I have two very special guests joining me in the studio right here is Gautam Mehra of PwC. He's head of taxation. And joining us from our Gurgaon studios is Girish Vanvari, who is head of taxation at KPMG. Gentlemen, pleasure to have you here. Now, when we talk tax and when we are looking at it from the common man's perspective, usually it's a scary word. But opening thoughts, is this going to be a slightly easier budget for the Aam Aadmi when it comes to tax? Girish, let me start with you first.
Let me put it this way. Coming in at the backdrop of the demonetization and the economy slowing down, the expectations from this budget are huge. From a common man perspective, there are huge expectations on the cut in tax rates, increase in slabs. People are hoping that they will be given some more headroom to spend. So clearly the first big expectation which comes in is that this 2.5 lakh, which is the exempt limit till now, is that sufficient? Should that go up? Should that become 3, 3.5, 4? Should the slabs go up from 2.5, 5, 10 to say something like 4, 8, 12, 15? These are kind of popular expectations which are coming up. So coming in the backdrop of a derailed economy which looks to be recalibrating with the demonetization, people are hoping that there is some relief given to a common man in terms of increase in slabs, in terms of perhaps reduction in tax rates, and this surcharge also which is there above 1 crore, people are hoping that that also is reduced by some percentage points, which will actually help people to spend more.
Okay, let me bring you in, Gautam, because we've been getting a lot of commentary, a lot of wish lists that are floating around as always. And it seems that people also expect a return of the standard deduction that individual taxpayers used to enjoy. So if the FM is looking at tinkering and offering some kind of a sop to the Aam Aadmi, would you prefer a change in the slab rates or a return of standard deduction, or perhaps both?
Well, between the two, I mean, obviously from an ask perspective, you like, both of them. But just on a more serious note, because there'll be a limited amount of flexibility available between the two, I think it'd be a lot more better if, you had the slab rate slightly increase rather than just the standard deduction. And the reason for that is we have this huge push by the government towards the whole digital economy, right? It's expected that this year there will be a lot more stuff coming in the regular economy, just in terms of transactions, and therefore a lot more population, which will get covered under this 2.5 lakh or 5 lakh net, right? So if with that we just, look at the last 3 years, slab rates have remained the same, apply the, inflation 6%, you increase the slab rates by 15-20% just to keep it at par with what it was 3 years ago, you're looking at about a 3 lakhs annual income slab rate, right? There will still be more than enough new taxpayers coming into the system if everything gets captured in the regular economy. So I would much rather do that because that will just, incentivize a lot more folks to come into this space.
Okay. Let's also talk about another aspect, and that is obviously the ATC limit, because, that's what we look at every time as individual, salary earners. Any case here for perhaps an extension beyond 1.5 lakhs, or would you rather want them to unbundle it, so to speak? That's a wish list every year, hasn't come true till now. So, Gautam, let's start with you.
Yeah. So I think the larger question there actually on this is what the finance minister attempted to do last year. Move away from, the EEE basis of taxation, which is you invest in the PF, NPS schemes, it's exempt. The income is exempt at the time of withdrawal as well as is exempt. And he tried to shift over to what is, more popularly called the EET. So you tax it at the time of withdrawal, right? He had to roll back those measures. So I think that's the larger space to look at. I'm not so much, fixed upon whether 1,50,000 goes up to 1,75,000 or stuff like that. It's more a policy initiative of how much they want to push people more towards savings, right, rather than expenditure. But I think the larger question would be that if he is again going to be attempting to move to the EET, one needs to be very careful that investments which have already been made by the Aam Aadmi in any of these retirement schemes, that is not touched.
So, we're going to talk about retirement, savings and investment in greater detail in just a bit. And I'm going to come back to the NPS because it was such a huge controversy last year. But Girish, let's get your thoughts on ATC. Are you expecting any sort of tinkering at all?
Actually, I think ATC is a very useful section to channelize investments in a particular direction. So if you want more money to be going into debt or more money to be going into the bank deposits or infrastructure funds or in a particular way, it's important to raise this limit of 1,50,000 to maybe 2 lakhs or 1,80,000. And I want to just bring out one important point here, that even that it is 20-25,000 rupees, the trickle down effect is a lot. 25,000 into 2 crore taxpayers, it is 50-60,000 crores which can be easily channelized into a particular direction. The country needs money to kickstart many projects. Everything cannot be financed from the center. So this could be a good way to move money into the direction in which we want it to be. So I think increasing this rate of 1,50,000 to a higher number looks to be a very good option. Should it be 2 lakhs, should it be 175, 180? It's something we'll really keenly watch.
Okay, so when you said channelizing more of these investments towards infrastructure, would you expect any kind of further rebate or an additional tax break on investments which are going in either in infrastructure bonds or any of these sort of instruments?
Absolutely. So ATC, the list can be expanded to include more kind of investments which the country needs at this point of time. The limits can be expanded. So it is one section, and then you club this NPS also, which is some sort of a small saving actually, because the NPS money also gets reinvested in particular investments. So if you do a play of ATC, though 10-20,000 rupees may look very small, but the trickle down effect of this is huge, because 2 crores taxpayers, 20,000, 30,000, expand the list of investments, you can actually use the budget to move money in a particular direction.
Okay, Gautam, health and insurance, because that's where limits were increased a couple of years back. So it stands at, I think, around 55,000 if you're looking at self, spouse and parents, etc. But is there a case again for a further reduction here? Do you think that's something that the government should consider?
I think this gets linked to your, first question, is whether there's a need to, provide some kind of positivity, and if so, what? Increasing the slab rate, or should one, increase the ADC limit, or focus on this medical piece, etc. So clearly, the expectation is that you need to push something down positive because of what's just happened in the last 2-3 months. The fact that next year, when you look ahead, GST revenues are also likely to, make the balance sheet a little more positive and healthy and give some free play. So I think between these, it may be difficult for the finance minister to try and put everything in, right? So obviously, you have to prioritize. So the standard slab is probably the most simplest thing and something that will impact, a lot more folks across the board. Get them into the tax net, and just get them the feel that saying, yeah, the government is easing things up and making things simpler. Between medical and the investment piece, right? Clearly, I think the investment piece is something that would be more positive for the country as a whole, right? Given that the medical stuff was just, changed, I think, a couple of years back, and it's in that slab rate, a reasonable basis, I wouldn't expect any significant changes in that for now. Okay. Maybe affordable housing or stuff like that, which is more, again, investment focused.
You took the words away from my mouth, because I was going to say exactly that. We need to take a break, but on the other side, we're going to spend some time talking about housing, because affordable housing has been a huge slogan for this government. Is there more tax relief on the way? We'll discuss that, your savings and your investments, and how taxation might impact them on the other side.